Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail. Well, you know something, Kim? I have to talk about what I read this morning in the paper, and we've talked about it many times, and now I'm getting
you
to think
did clip
about
that
it
out for me. I did not
at
read
the
it.
Post. It was in the New York Post this morning. It's about picking up the check and how expensive it's gotten, and some people really have no money at the end of the month to pay their bills because they want to go out, they want to date, and so I'm thinking now a little bit more about this one person picking up the date or the check all the time. I think I have to rethink it depending on the person's job. If you know somebody, a guy, from a woman's perspective, you know the person you're dating is making good money, all right, let him pay. But if somebody is just starting out in their career, like, perhaps like you are, but you're really now making money too, so you should pick up the check a few times. I think then everybody has to alternate. And what I've said all the time.
Wait, this is groundbreaking news.
I know. I'm really feeling badly if somebody at the end of the month can't pay their electric bill because they've been going out to dinner. And I've always said that I don't think it should be a blockbuster evening.
You
every
said get a
time
slice
you go
of
out.
pizza if that's not what you can afford, but that the guy should still pay. So is that not what you think?
Well, I'm thinking now maybe we have to do a little sharing. If you're going out constantly with somebody and they can't, that they can't basically afford dinners all the time.
Okay, but this is where it gets confusing. Let's say someone has a good job, so they have a big income.
Well, then I'd make them pay all the time.
Yeah, but then you
pick up.
That's your perspective, how you would spend your money. What if someone doesn't want spend their money in the same way? One, what if their rent is really high? What if they're supporting their parents? What if XYZ? So just because they have a bigger income doesn't mean that they should be paying for your dinner every time.
Well, I wouldn't feel as guilty, but perhaps I wouldn't feel as guilty as long as I know that they've got a good job. If somebody is just starting out, I think the sharing might come more into it.
So the bottom line is what, have a conversation?
Well, not on the first or second or third date, but if you're really going out with somebody and you know their situation and you see that this is a big monetary issue, I would say, you know what? Why don't I pick up tonight? It doesn't have to be every single one because a lot of men really feel that they want to do it. But I think you have to say either come to my place, I'll make dinner. I think it goes back to, not having it all one way.
So as girls, are we supposed to be hyper aware, or should guys kind of be clear about their situation by date 4 or 5 of
No, I think the women should be aware. I think you should be aware of where he is financially. To some extent, you're not going to know what's in his checkbook, but if somebody's at a big Wall Street firm, they're making good money. But if they're working in a McDonald's and they're making a minimum wage, then I think it would be unfair for them to pick up all the bills.
Okay, now let me go one step further. Let's say you can tell by the way that they're saying, it's date 5 and they're like, hey, let's either get a slice of pizza or let's not do dinner. Why don't we just take a walk or do some other activity where they don't pay for instead? So you kind of know where they stand.
Okay.
Then you have to make a decision of, were you looking at more of the quote unquote traditional relationship where the guy pays? If that's what you want, then do you leave the guy?
You don't leave somebody because he can't afford to take you out for dinner. You go in the park and you take a walk. And then you make dinner at home. You make a pasta or you make a an omelet at home for the two of you, or he does it in his place.
Okay.
So I think it's an awareness, and I think everybody has to be. What I think the article points to is you must be aware now of the cost of living, since the cost of everything has gone up so drastically. I think that was the bottom line in the article.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I also do know people who are like, I don't want to go on another first date with a new girl when I'm already gone on a few first or second dates this week because that's another person I don't even know if I'm going to like that I'm going to have to pay for.
Well, that's the problem. That is true. It's true. So, that's why so many people want to just have a drink first.
Yeah.
I understand it. And
but there's nothing in it. I'll go on as many first dates as I please because there's no monetary commitment, but there is a time commitment.
Yeah, and certainly, and you want to be sensitive to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, we've sort of put that in
I
its
guess
moment.
so, because it actually is a recurring question that I feel like we get all the
Yeah,
time.
people
And
ask us all the time, and we had your famous reach story.
yeah,
So,
I reach, you
but
fake reach
it
into
was
your bag. And like, should you offer every time and all that? I still don't know.
well, it's not a matter of the offering. I think it's where you go now. You have to be more aware of the prices, and you have to be aware of the situation. You can't just go blindly in, which is something my mother
feel
always
like
told me: never order the most expensive
Yeah.
thing on the menu, no matter what.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sometimes you have to share a salad and whatever.
I think you always offer and then take their lead. If they say, "Oh yeah, we'll split it,"
Right.
or if they say, "No, I got it," so it's
Right.
like kind of not that hard. Like
But
all you
not
have to
the
do.
first date. The first date, I agree. The first date, I think the person who asked should pay.
Yeah, but I still think you should offer.
Okay, I think
I
you're
don't
probably
know.
right.
It's just like social norm at this point.
Okay.
Okay. Second big news is Grandma's going on vacation next week. So we're not going to be together for a little bit. We can share some of, she's going on a girls' trip to Europe, which was fitting with the guest that we had this week. She is between France and New York. Her name is Adja Toure, and she's on the reality show on Bravo called Real Girlfriends in Paris.
And I can't wait to hear her because it's very exciting. She's in the same age group as you were at Cornell.
Yes, it's
so
all
fun.
girls in their 20s. Yeah, and we both went to Cornell
Right.
together, actually. The show is about a few girls in their 20s, like from 22 to 29-ish, and all their friendships and how they live as Americans in Paris. And it's really cute. It's been fun to watch. So we talked to Adja, ask her some questions about the experience, some recommendations for France. So we hope you enjoy. Okay, guys, we are joined by Adja Toure. She's a cast member on Bravo's new reality show, Real Girlfriends in Paris. Adja, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
So we start by asking all of our guests their age, relationship status, and where they're currently living.
Well, I am now 26, but I like to just say I'm 24 again because I lost 2 years to COVID. My relationship status, I am seeing people, maybe one person, maybe multiple. You have to watch the show and find out. And I live in New York City half the time. Otherwise, I'm in Paris.
And Adja and I actually went to Cornell together
Yes.
back in the day. We didn't really cross paths too much, but what was your experience there? Like, did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, yell Cornell as they as the new hashtag says.
Wait, what is it?
Hashtag yell Cornell. So silly.
No, yell Cornell?
It's really
Yell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like why.
I guess because it rhymes.
Right. Makes sense.
But yeah, Cornell was great. I love being a hotelie, have a lot of really close friends that came out of it. Definitely no regrets on going to an Ivy.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like in hindsight, hotel would have been amazing because I feel like it was all really like close-knit people, pre-professional. Like everyone from there did really well and everyone was like cool. I don't
I
know.
thought that was strictly, I actually thought that was more for people who were going into hospitality. And it's turned out that now they've joined with the business school. So it's really an all-encompassing degree when you get it from there. So, but you got a good, you're an English major. Now you're doing communications. It's all the same.
Kind of. I don't know if I really learned anything, but
oh no.
I'm excited, Adja, because Grandma Gail's going to Paris next week. So you'll have a lot to discuss and she wants all of your recommendations.
I will be there too. Maybe we'll grab a little cafe.
Oh, that sounds great. I would love that.
So would love to hear about how how the opportunity to be on the show first came about.
Yeah. So I was already kind of making moves to move to Paris, getting visa, getting apartment, all of that. And so in that process, I found out about the show and was honestly a really good fit because they were looking for women who were living their best life in Paris. And I was on my way to doing that.
And I mean, you have another full-time job, right? So that must be a lot to balance.
Well,
Yeah. So
or in France as well, or is it just based in the US?
I work for it was for a company based in the US. I basically said, hey, we're fully remote. I have family in France and I'd like to live there for at least half of the next year. And they were like, I mean, sure, like no one's going to force you to stay. And so I took that opportunity when my boss said yes. However, I switched bosses within that little stint of being in Paris at the same time. And that's why on the show you see me like kind of like, okay, I gotta get a new job because I want to stay in Paris. And my new boss is trying to make me come back to the US to work on Long Island.
Come back to the office.
Exactly. An office that was closed.
Yeah, it makes no sense. But
Right.
so were you a Bravo fan before?
Yeah, I think for reality TV, it was MTV, Bravo, way back, I guess it was like Oxygen back in the days.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
And also like I'm a huge like Bachelorette fan.
You and Kimberly. I think they had something in the water up in Ithaca. The two girls were so obsessed with all these
In
reality
America,
shows. Well,
like
that's
every
true.
girl
I guess you're
watches
right.
that on Guy. Like,
Bachelor Nation.
exactly. How did they get the whole group of girls who are part of the cast together? Like, were you all friends already? And then they made the TV show, or is like you kind of just had a few mutuals?
I think each of the girls knew each other in different capacities. So I think I knew people the least since I was the newest to move to Paris. But I know some of the girls had mutual friends, like Anya, because she went to George Washington. Like we had some overlap from like DC connections. So it was really, it just depends on like which two girls you put together. You can kind of make a little chart as to how we all know each other.
A lot of crying going on in the set. I haven't really watched all of it. Kimmy's addicted to you, but I was watching and I said, my gosh, they spent the whole hour crying. It's a lot of emotional, I guess, a lot of soul searching on this for whatever reason. And I guess you start looking at each other's relationships and also friendships and family, and it becomes very involved.
Absolutely. I also crack my jokes. Like we're a lot of water signs. We have three Scorpios. I'm a Pisces, so water works galore for sure.
But I remember this was so funny because I was like watching the first episode and I was like, I bet I'm a Pisces as well. I was like, I bet Aja's a Pisces, but I was like, well, but I'll never know. And then you brought it up like later that episode or the next episode or something. And I was like, of course, makes so much
Pisces
sense.
intuition, you already knew.
Yeah, exactly. But you were touching on
where do you shoot in Paris? Do you go all? Is there a studio that you actually work out of, or is it just you have local shoots like they shoot movies on the street here in Manhattan?
Yeah, it was really our authentic lives there. So sometimes in my apartment or another girl's apartment, at little cafes in our neighborhoods. It really just depends.
Yeah, I like going to Cannes with you. I would have liked to have been on that little outing.
It was very fun.
Beautiful.
I have to say.
Yeah, it was interesting because we were just watching and like you talked a little bit about clickiness between the friend group. Is it like still that way, or do you feel like by the end of the season, I mean, there's always going to be cliques. Not every single friend is going to be equally as friends with the other one, but like I'm curious if that dynamic has switched around at all.
I think that the people who are like kind of peas in a pod stuck together, and like you said, it's very natural. Like you're not going to be best friends with every single person, otherwise you would never have best friends.
Mhm.
And I see that the dynamic, I'm sure if you look at social media and whatever, you'll see the same dynamics as you saw on the show. Like certain people are closer with one another, but at the end of the day, it's still a friend group or a girlfriend group.
And is it made up for are some of these conversations really made up for the reality, or does it come out organically? I mean, is it something that really is true that we can believe, or is it good for TV, which it is? It's very entertaining, but I often wonder.
I definitely can speak for myself, in which I think I'm pretty authentic to myself. I think the best compliment is when my friends watch it, they're like, oh my God, you're exactly the same as you are on TV. So I can at least speak to that in the fact that it was never scripted, and they really
that's what I mean. Good.
To come out with whatever we want to say. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like a lot of my one-liners are like the same sexual dad joke, and I have other jokes. I'm very funny in my opinion.
Well, speaking of direct quote, American men want to fuck you and French men want to date you.
Yes.
Do we stand by this statement?
I wouldn't even say it's just French guys. I think European guys in general, because the closest relationships that I've had to like being like actual boyfriends, even when living in the US, were all European men. Every single
Interesting.
I feel like in my mind, I think the opposite. Like Europeans are like, oh, laissez-faire, open relationship kind of vibes. And then people in the US like are more monogamous, but
that's probably not true. I think you don't use dating apps, I don't think, as much over there, do they? Or do they?
There's definitely still
Uh,
dating apps. Like it's like
Okay.
the Tinders and the Rayas and all of that
So
are still in
they're all
existence.
over the world. I
Mhm.
didn't realize
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
that you were.
Funny enough, when I was first moving, I paid the $8 for a Tinder passport just
Oh,
for
right.
I'm so detail oriented sometimes that I was like, I need to have dates already lined up so that way when I land in Paris, I have things
Right.
to do. And one of the first guys that I went on a date on was like still a very good friend to this day. So it
Mhm.
worked. I made
Mhm.
friends through a dating app.
Mhm. And like you talk about, because I feel like this was relatable on the show, we see you go on dates with Alex, and kind of like talk about, oh, do I want a DTR? Like, what are we kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Do you feel like you came to any like resolve with that like conversation, or is that something we have to kind of wait to watch?
Um, Alex and I definitely have that conversation. I think it's on this. I'm not sure what they have used or not used,
Mhm.
but Alex and I definitely talked about what a long term would look like versus just like, is this like a romantic stint? So you'll definitely find out what that really looks like at the end of the season, hopefully. If
Mhm.
not, then you can come back and ask me and I'll tell you everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think for myself, like even when I was on the verge of like my New York to Paris transition, I already had those feelings. I was like, ah, I'm really tired of this whole like, I mean, it's really easy to go pick up a guy at the bar. It's very easy. But at the same time, like when I say that French guys want to date me or European guys want to date me, it's that I'll be at a bar and they're not saying like, let's go home right away. It's like, hey, like, can we get a coffee? Like, let's go get a petit verre. Let's go get a little drink first. It's a little bit more courtship, even if the outcome is the
Nice.
same.
No, I think it's nice.
That
I
is
think
so
it's great.
nice.
Does your family come and visit you at all? Have you had any people coming over and taking in the Eiffel Tower and croissants?
Well, since we grew up like traveling to France, it's like
Oh,
it's
okay.
not as novel in my
Right.
family. So my mom's like, "You're going to Paris, have fun, bye." Like she's
Oh,
like, "I've
okay.
had enough of that city."
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I got the answer.
Why do you think Americans like romanticize Paris in the way that we do?
Ain't it the city of love now? Is maybe it is. It is very romantic, and the light and the bridges and buildings are so
Yeah.
beautiful.
I personally think that whether Americans admit it or not, I think that there's not as much positive history on the US side as there might be in France. So I think that the romanticization also kind of stems from like that longing for a different, like a completely different world and history, etc. At least that's how I feel sometimes, where it's like, okay, France has like all this architecture and history on every single street that you walk on, be it in Paris or outside of it.
Mhm.
And I think that there's like a uniqueness to it that I think it's very easy to romanticize. Like, we don't have a Tour Eiffel, we have the Statue of Liberty, and yeah, she's cool, but she came from France. Hello. So
Right. Exactly right.
so I think in general, movies and television really captured the whimsiness of
Mhm.
what Paris has to offer, and I think people really just latched onto that. And I think there's something like a Paris disappointment syndrome that exists. There's an actual term for it, but people who love Paris to death go see it and are so underwhelmed. It's like
Oh,
there's an
wow.
actual term for it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
That's so crazy.
Paris
yeah, I
depression.
think level setting your expectations is really important when traveling abroad.
Yeah, with anything, even like with dating and love, you think about like your idealized guy and like everyone would be disappointed if like
Right.
because who can really live up to perfection? What's the syndrome for that? Because I have it.
Stupidity.
Dunning-Kruger.
But yeah, for a lot of us who have either been just to Paris on vacation or have never been, can you kind of describe to us like what an actual like day in the life would be for a local?
Sure. I think that some of the things that you might see in movies or TV shows are pretty accurate. Like a lot of people are going to wake up and go grab a little cafe if they don't have any at home. But I tend to make coffee at home. Going to the boulangerie, like grab your little croissant, get your baguette for the day. That's also very normal. Um, because I don't work as a French citizen, like there's also the workday aspect. So
Right.
people do all of that and then go to their jobs, which I think people kind of miss out on. Maybe Emily in Paris
Yeah.
touches on
Right.
that a little bit, but in a very comical way. And then evenings, it's a much more relaxed pace of life, and so evenings are spent with like lengthier dinners, and you'll see on the late night on your average like Monday through Friday, it doesn't really matter. Like there's still going to be a lot of people in the streets at cafes
Mhm.
having a beer or a wine. And I always thought that was really sweet that it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. It's always just like kind of like nice to celebrate with friends, like over a shared meal or over just a petit a little glass. So that's pretty different, I think, from cities in America that I visited. Whether I was there on a Monday or a Friday, that's a very different vibe. But in Paris, that lull is less jarring.
Interesting. Because I feel like in New York City, if you're downtown,
Yeah.
like any night of the week, it's like somewhat busy. But I do feel like if it's Friday or Saturday, there's more of a like club/bar scene
Yeah.
that people are into. Like, do they have? I know they have clubs in Paris, but is it as, I guess, prevalent to go to like a sports bar or something?
Well, I'd say sports bar. The only reason I frequented them was I was with other expats. So it was like you're gonna go watch a rugby game, you're gonna go watch a cricket game or whatever with like Irish guys, American guys, whatever.
Mhm.
But there's like a huge like underground techno scene, and like music's really big in France. And so if you're looking at the average weekend, I think it just depends on what your individual interests are, because there's going to be something for you if it's club night versus something more loungy versus a sports bar. But France definitely has it all.
How small does the social scene feel there? Like, for example, with the other girls in your cast, like, have you already had heard of them? Like, would you know anyone who kind of like is an American in Paris, or is it as big as, like a New York City may feel?
So actually prior to filming, back when I had a little bit more time on my hands, I was throwing parties for expats like in my apartment. And because of that, I actually met people who were friends of friends with some of the girls on the cast. So
Okay.
it's small enough that if you're on Facebook or whatever, you'll see a lot of mutuals in that regard.
I'm going to be in Paris over a weekend. And I was thinking I was going to take my grandson is going to meet me. He's doing a junior year in Madrid. And I told him to fly over and he's going to come meet me for the weekend. I'd love to Saturday. Do you think that now you can go out to Versailles, or is it too late in the season? I'm going to be there
Um,
next Saturday.
I actually went around this exact time last year,
Yes.
and it was
Oh,
lovely.
okay.
Go early in the
The
morning, go at
morning.
9 a.m. because good grief, when we were walking out, the line was from the
Yeah.
front doors all the way to the
Yeah,
street.
I was
So
thinking, I think you have to get a ticket in advance. I was going to do it online. But so in other words, it's certainly beautiful this time of the year. It's still open and
the
yeah,
gardens
October.
are not the gardens aren't like in full
Right.
bloom, but the palace itself,
So is
it's still stunning.
yeah, I want to. Someone said they've redone certain areas of Versailles and made it into private rooms. I don't have any idea about that, but maybe they'll give us a tour of it if I
Yeah,
ask.
highly
Yeah.
recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any other like recommendations of restaurants or museums
That
or
you love.
stores
That you love.
yeah, that might not be like touristy?
Sure. So my favorite restaurant in Paris, it's called Oma, O-M-A, which means grandmother in Korean, and it's a Korean French fusion
Oh,
restaurant. It's owned by this woman named Ji Hai. She's super super sweet. I like that was like Alex and I's like go-to spot in Paris. So definitely very sentimental and also just delicious. So
Mhm.
been there quite a few times and highly recommend it. I think another restaurant that I really like is Flotte. It's Flottes. It's on Rue Cambon, which is like where
oh,
Chanel and Saint Laurent and Dior are. So it's like close to touristy areas, but
right.
it still is like amazing, authentic French food.
Mhm.
It was the first place that I went out for dinner by myself when I moved to
Right.
Paris.
Oh,
So it's like also kind of a sentimental
Yeah.
thing. For shopping, oof, I think
what about for a
honestly,
guy
for a
shopping?
guy.
Yeah, for a guy, where would you go? What area? Near the
Um,
in the more of the beat area, more, what would you call it, Kimmy? You know the terms.
Oh, the left bank?
The left bank. Are there places there that would be more for, let's say, somebody in their 20s to go shopping that might be fun, or is it all the same?
I mean, Saint-Germain-des-Prés is like the
Right.
biggest, like that's where you go shopping in
Okay.
general. If you're looking for more boutique-y, I just recommend kind of walking off to the side streets and you'll find something really cute.
Right.
One of
Okay.
my
Okay.
favorite coats I found like randomly in the Marais. So there's
Yeah, well, that's
definitely
my favorite area.
Mhm.
The
Yes,
Marais. That's
it
where we
is.
got the crepes, Kimmy.
Oh yeah, I'm
Those
still
crepes
thinking
were so
about those
fabulous.
from like 10 years ago.
Actually, the place to go for crepes is in the 14th. That is the crepe area.
The
So
14th Aragon. I was.
you-
Don't try.
arrondissement.
You're done.
All right, I'm done. My French is not. I can only
know.
say 14.
You'll have to practice
Okay.
next week. Do you dress
Okay.
different when you're in France versus the US, or is your style kind of like always the same?
I'm pretty true to myself.
Yeah.
I don't feel super influenced by how locals dress per se,
Okay.
which I think none of the girls really do. I think we all kind of
Mhm.
like we kept our same American style for the
Yeah.
most part. The French, I laugh because they are people who will dress the season, not the weather. And if I am hot, I will wear a tank top and like a little skirt and walk outside because it's 65 degrees. No,
Uh-huh.
I need a scarf and a coat and pants and booties. So the French love to dress for the season,
Right.
not
I
for
didn't
the
know
weather.
that.
Yeah, well, they love to be. Well, they're high style. They're where style really originated, and they're
Mhm.
very good at it.
Mhm.
And they're apparently always cold.
I don't know.
Well, you know why? Also, I think the heat never worked in any of the buildings, so I think that's an issue as well. So they
Maybe.
layer up.
That could be. Do you find that France is like more accepting to diversity than in the US?
I think it depends on how you look at it. I think
Mhm.
that there are, I mean, we could get very easily political about it, that there is a lot of Islamophobia. There have been policies in France that I personally think are kind of horrendous, but at the same time, like America isn't very good at the same like xenophobia level and all of that. So is it more diverse or less diverse? Well, Paris is teeny tiny. France is teeny tiny compared in comparison to the United States.
Mhm.
But for myself, I think that I I have a better time in France at times because I think people are a little bit more attuned to like I'm a Senegalese descendant, so people are more attuned to West African women and what I look like, and they're not exactly like, wow, like let me touch your hair, which is something that happens to me in America.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just like the there's still going to be fetishization. There's
Right.
still going to
Mhm.
be microaggressions, like wherever I go. So while diversity might be more apparent, like per capita, I don't think that it's that different than the US in a lot of ways because people will still kind of face those hardships of dealing with any kind of racial tension or religious tensions.
Anything
I don't
that's
think that
different.
is-
Anything that's
Yeah.
different to a country. That's a problem we all have. We need to be a little more
Yep.
universal.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is there anything else we could look forward to this season or like what you're most excited about that hasn't aired yet or something that has that
And
you love?
also, Adja, where is this going? Let's say if it gets picked up again, then naturally you do it again. I'm
Like
sure.
season 2.
Season 2. Is it financially a great thing for you, or is this a stepping stone for another, maybe for an acting career in a movie or whatever? What's your eventual goal?
I mean, to be honest, I never expected to be on reality TV. It kind of was an opportunity that, appeared and I was like, well, I'm not gonna say no. Like I have to do this. It's so exciting. My career path has never really been on like the TV or entertainment scope. So for me, it's kind of like a fun side hobby, side project of sorts. If it's a stepping stone of any means, it's probably to like help me use my platform for good. I'd like to be able to share my voice and I'd like to be able to help other people in the world. And also my entrepreneurial instincts, like it would be great to start my business finally if I have some financial backing and more interest. So I think that from a season 2 perspective, it'd be amazing because I think I have a lot of story left to tell. I think some of the other girls do as well. And also to answer your question, what am I looking forward to for the rest of the season? We have some pretty cool events coming up, as you've seen, like that build up to Anya's Mess on Firestone event, the Chloe Collette
Mhm.
event. So I think that everything that everyone has worked toward will start to come to fruition. You'll get to see what that looks like, and you'll get to form your own opinions and see how we react. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to kind of see it all come together.
Amazing.
it sounds great. It's going to
Yeah,
be
I've
terrific.
really enjoyed watching so far, and like,
Thank
Kimberly's
you.
addicted to you. He's addicted. She
yeah,
loves
I
it.
like any of the Bravo shows that deals with like a younger cast. I love any show that has to do like it's the same reason Emily in Paris was like popular. Like it's beautiful people in a beautiful place. Like what's not to like, you know?
And nice people.
Yeah.
Right.
Everyone is very likable. There's like not that much drama between you guys, which like is good.
For a change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty mild. I think that the thing that I always say is like, hey, sisters fight. So even if there is butting of heads, it's because we're all different girls from different backgrounds with different personalities. And it's normal for there to be friction at times, but at the end of the day, we're supporting each other. We're doing what we can to make our own paths in France. And we're doing it together because we share not just the journey of living there, but the journey of filming together.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I want to end the episode with a game we play with all of our guests, Grandma Gail's old-fashioned dating quiz. So I'm going to go through a few hypotheticals, and then we will deem whether you're more of a modern dater or more of a traditional old-fashioned dater.
Ooh.
Okay.
Can't wait to find out.
The first one is, would you rather receive a call or a text from the person you're dating if it's just to say hi?
A text, because I'm very busy. I don't always have time for a call.
Sleep with someone on the first date. Would you do it?
Why not?
Dating apps or setups?
Ooh, maybe a setup, because someone had an actual opinion as to why we should be together.
Yeah. Although sometimes I feel like it's just, oh, you're single and they're single, go out. But hopefully people are more thoughtful.
I've never been on a blind date.
Really?
Yeah.
I met on a blind date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
met
I
my
go on
husband.
them a lot. Would you move in together before getting engaged or wait until you're engaged or married to live together?
Definitely before, because you need to know before you get engaged if you can live with someone.
Yeah. And who should pay for the date? Should it be one person in the relationship or should you split or alternate?
I think alternating is the best. If you get someone this time, the other person gets the other thing. I think that's the best way to remove any sort of imbalance in power dynamic.
Okay, definitely more of a modern dater. You only had one traditional, so you're on my team. Adja, thank you so much for joining us. Tell everyone how they can follow you, watch your show, anything else you want them to know.
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on Instagram. That's Adja ADJA DJA DJA DJA. And if you got that much, you can add a T at the end and find me on TikTok and Twitter. For TV purposes, you can watch me on Real Girlfriends in Paris on Bravo TV on Monday nights, or on Peacock and Hayu if you're international, days after, so Tuesday through perpetuity.
It's great.
Amazing. Thank
You've done
you.
amazing. You're terrific. You're an inspiration. I
Oh,
like
thank
it.
you
Go
so much.
Cornell. What is it?
Yes, go
They
Cornell.
yell. Cornell yell.
Go
What is it?
Cornell.
Another great episode of Excuse My Grandma. You know how to follow us, TikTok and Instagram, Excuse My Grandma. And tell your friends about us, rate us 5 stars, leave a review on the podcast if you haven't yet. And if you don't know how to do that, ask a family member because it really helps us grow. And we'll see you next week.